Welcome to Here I Stand. My name is Patricia Lorde. Here I Stand is a podcast that talks about extraordinary stories for ordinary people. Today, I would like to introduce an incredible woman. Her name is Hoa Ngo. Hoa is a Managing Director of Workforce Solutions at Impellem Group. She is the cornerstone of their UK and Ireland operations. She has been a passionate advocate for hiring inclusive people. Her work extends beyond traditional talent acquisition and tech. Hoa has been named in the Involve Empower 100 executive list for 3 years running for her leadership in breaking down barriers for people of colour in the workplace. Also, she has been named on the SIA Staffing Industry Analyst Global Power 150. She has served as chair of the Employment Advisory Board of HMP Hall, supporting women into work upon release. She's also a trustee for the Refugee Employment Network, REN, the UK's only national network dedicated exclusively to refugee recruitment. This is going to be exciting, everyone. So, Hoa, welcome.
Thank you so much, Pat. Thank you for inviting me here today, and look at this stunning scenery.
I know!
Super exciting.
It's beautiful.
It is. So exciting. I'm a little bit nervous, bear with me, but also, really privileged to be able to share my story.
Don't be nervous. We're just having a chat. And for those of you that are looking at us today, I'm still analog. Don't come for me in the comments. I'm a 70s baby. So today we're just going to have some fun and get to know more about you. So when people hear your job title, they may form assumptions about your journey. Before we talk about your success, how do you describe where your story really begins?
I think before I tell you my story, I'm going to flip it back on you. So you weren't expecting that.
I wasn't.
And I'd also kind of encourage your listeners and your viewers to also do the same, which is if you listen to that bio and you close your eyes and you didn't know my name, what are your preconceptions of that person?
Oh, you're challenging me now, but you know what I'm going to say.
Go.
I wouldn't have expected you to be a woman of colour.
There we go.
Yeah. As you know, I've worked in the recruitment industry many, many years ago, and we weren't there in high places. So the fact that you're a managing director for one of, I think it's the 6th largest global
service provider.
Absolutely.
Largest in the UK for staffing.
Yeah.
Yep,
it's a major achievement. And I thought about this before you came, actually. And I just thought, how many people of colour do I know in this industry at your level? And there isn't any. So you are the first.
Wow. Okay. Right. I didn't expect that.
No, but you are the first. You've broken the ceiling for both the UK and Europe. I don't know about the US, but you are the first. And this is why you're here.
Wow. Here we go. So thank you, and bearing with me as I flip the question back at you.
Oh my, this podcast is this.
Well, you know. But I guess going back to your question, which is, I think you were saying, actually asking my origin story. And, kind of whilst I may convey a certain impression, I've had a very, and I still have a super privileged career in life. My origins lie elsewhere. So I was actually born in Vietnam. My father is ethnically Chinese. My mother was Vietnamese. And we actually came here as part of the kind of the Vietnamese boat people diaspora.
Wow.
Yes. So it was very different. I don't have any living memory of that, but I know that the journey, that they had to kind of come here. And we were not rich in Vietnam. And actually, for various reasons, the Chinese were not so politely asked to leave the country, which we had to do so. So my parents and my grandmother literally sold everything, our clothes, the furniture that they had. And if they couldn't sell any piece of furniture, they literally chopped it into firewood to sell in order to pay to get safe passage on the boats. And so fast forward a few years, the British government were lovely, gave us, a home and safety and security here. So it's interesting. And so, kind of the name of your podcast, Here I Stand. Here I stand or sit, in this wonderful environment.
And so, correct me if I'm wrong, are we talking early 80s here?
I arrived very late 70s.
Very late 70s.
Yeah.
Because I have a memory, and it's a sketchy memory, but I have a memory of watching the television, very much in analog, black and white, because that's how we did it back then. And there was a huge story. There was a huge interest of people arriving on boats. And my memory is that these boats they weren't great, right? They were they were just put together. All right. And I do recall that. And so to hear your story and to be able to have a flashback in my own memory, because I remember the conversations that my parents were having. It was like, please, somebody help them. This is awful. They've been traveling for such a long time. Makes me feel quite emotional, actually, because there is so much negative rhetoric at the moment. So I'm glad you came here. I'm glad that we're doing this and to see your trajectory, because this is the success of somebody needing a safe place to be, and you've thrived here. So
absolutely,
kudos to your grandmother, kudos to your parents, and kudos to you.
Thank you. And one little thing before we actually go into the kind of the meaty questions that you have, but one thing I did want to kind of raise was my name, literally translated, was my parents' sort of small mark of resistance as well. So I don't know if you know this.
No.
Literally translated, my name is Viet Hoa. Viet means Vietnamese and Hoa means Chinese. And, so when I was born, I think they were doing a little bit of middle finger up to the authorities. It probably limited my career choices or choices within Vietnam. But hey.
And you're here. And
exactly, which is why I will never change my name. I have not westernized it. It is everything, kind of that's important to my heritage, my legacy.
Oh, gosh, that's beautiful. Well, I wasn't expecting that.
Wow.
So thank you. Oh, I feel like all the other questions are just like, not just. Sorry, I'm emotional.
Oh.
Okay. So why don't you tell me what success means to you? And I'm not even going to say if anything at all, because that was the rest of the question. I know it means something just based on everything you've just laid bare now. So what does success mean to you?
I think success has fluctuated quite a bit in terms of, I guess, the era that I'm in my life. But actually success has been for me less of a, I want to be X when I grow up type of vibe, because actually I never knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. And actually it's more of, it's kind of where I want to be as opposed to what I want to be. So again, I'll tell you a story because I think today's going to be about storytelling.
And I love it. I'm here for it.
So when I first moved to London, actually, we lived in quite a deprived council estate in southeast London. It no longer exists. It's been bulldozed. And back in the day, it was a place where I did some Googling last night. I think it had 75% levels of unemployment.
Wow.
And quite a few of the residents actually fed back and said, if I put the postcode on my CV, the chances were you'd be declined because it was not a great place. So that was my upbringing. But actually, right across the road, there was our council estate and there was another beautiful private housing estate. And there was one tiny road that split us. And they actually had big concrete blocks actually to segment the two areas.
Right.
Yes, it was that level. And I just remember vividly as a kind of 7-8-year-old, we had to walk from my bit through the posh bit to get to Sainsbury's. And vividly thinking, that's where I want to be.
You weren't that broke. You went to Sainsbury's.
hey, Lidl wasn't there then. But that was a vivid memory and going, that is, I want to be in that lovely house that has a garden with a mown lawn, because our estate was concrete and, we didn't, grass was actually a privilege. And I think that for me was a kind of a memory of success or my aspiration of success.
Gosh, grass was a privilege. Wow. So now tell me what success has meant to your family seeing you thrive here.
That's a really complicated question because I have many layers of me, and actually the layer that I choose to show my family isn't necessarily the vision or the layer that we are talking about today in terms of my career kind of successes. And actually success for them is I've been able to give them good security financially, but also kind of emotionally. We don't have to worry in the same way anymore as we did, growing up. And, my husband as well, he's doing the same thing for his family. And another story I'll share is actually when he was growing up, we're both one of 5, so, big families. And they didn't even have a desk to do any homework on. They had a plank of wood that they'd put on their lap and do the homework, and then they'd share that plank of wood. So it's materially different, what we can achieve now and what we have achieved now and been able to kind of share with others. And now it's a kind of a moment to kind of actually, I feel now that I'm here, it's important to share with everyone else the kind of the sacrifices they made so that history doesn't forget the stories and doesn't repeat itself.
Oh, wow. And I think my story is not the same, but the one thing that I can definitely relate to, being a first generation of parents that migrated here, is the perception of the family based on your success, right?
Yeah, yes.
So I get it. Like, they know that you're doing really well, but they most probably don't know what a big deal you are, right? So because to them, you're still Hoa, I'm still Pat, so they get it, but don't get it. And I suppose there's a conflict there, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, because in your head, you're like, you don't want to say this, but do you know, I'm a big deal, but you don't say that. And sometimes that in itself can be a little bit light dimming.
Yes. Yeah, I hear you.
So how do you deal with that?
I think it twofold. So it is light dimming in the way that I actually feel a bit icky. And I think we've spoken about this privately as well, in sometimes doing that because actually I don't want my success to kind of make others feel devalued, if you understand my meaning. So sometimes you deliberately kind of hold back.
Which is crazy, right?
So it is interesting. And actually it wasn't until very recently, last month, as part of being a trustee, I had the most immense privilege of being introduced to the King, which was a sort of mind-blowing experience and not something I'd ever expect would happen. So I shared that with my dad, and I could see the flicker in his eye, and he didn't say anything because that's the sort of stoic person.
Yeah.
But I could suddenly see him go, hang on.
How did this happen?
Yeah, wait a minute. And it's that quietness of sharing that. And then I think that has actually helped him to understand what it is I do.
My daughter's a big deal.
Yeah. But he didn't say anything, it was just an unspoken thing.
A quiet pride.
Yes, exactly. And, rather than going, well done you, it was like could you get a printed picture so I can put it on my wall and not necessarily brag it to my friends, but just...
when they come and see, oh, look at my wallpaper.
Did I not mention?
My daughter's friends with the King. Because, for our parents, it's going to go that one generation. That little bit extra. Yeah, she's friends and,
Well, I've had a request already from Japan. So I have a sister-in-law in Japan, and her parents have heard the story, and now they're like, "Oh, could you send a copy so they can put it on their?"
Oh, I love it.
I don't know your family.
Doesn't matter. Send it. Everyone needs bragging rights. Can I have a copy? I absolutely love it. So you've mentioned that you've met the King. I need to dig into this. How did you meet the King?
Well, through an amazing charity called REND. So it's the Refugee Employment Network. And as you say, it's the only and the first network in the UK to really connect I guess, all these various very complex charities for refugees and the refugee community, and actually help them into tangible work, and work that is not undervaluing their current skill sets, because I can't remember the stat. It's something crazy, like 43% of refugees working are in roles that are below their capability. And what a waste of amazing human potential. And actually, given our current economy and skill shortages, that's a waste for us as a society. So long story short, I'm a new trustee at Wren, and the Royal Household were very kind enough to say, hey, we really support what you do. Why don't you host a recruitment fair at St. James's Palace?
Ooh!
Which was mind-blowing. And 500 people, with that lived experience came. There were brilliant employers there. So Impellem was naturally there, but we had Octopus, BBC, EY, organizations who were proudly there and saying, no, this is important. We will do this. This is untapped potential. And the secret surprise was the King wanted to show his support, so he attended. And he actually spent an hour in the room with the attendees, with all the people at the stands. And you could just see the hope kind of emanating from that room, and people thinking, actually, people aren't playing lip service to this, that there's a commitment and a drive to help me find work. And I think that was probably the most inspiring part of that day.
That just sounds incredible. And I think what's most inspiring about this to me is that there is so much negativity. So to be able to host, this recruitment day in St. James's Palace, as well as the King in attendance, and doing a walk around, I mean, you can't get bigger endorsement than that, right? And I actually read somewhere, so correct me if I'm wrong, that the majority of the 43% of these individuals actually have master's degrees or PhDs. So, when you think of the narrative that's being pushed on the public about refugees, and you hear what you're telling me here today, it's very different, right? I mean, who wouldn't want somebody who's that educated?
Precisely. And I think there is a sort of misconception that some of these people, coming, fleeing their country and coming here are doing so for economic reasons. But actually, like you said, there are super qualified people. I was speaking to people who are, kind of setting the fiscal policies in their respective countries, but they had to leave. How amazing is that experience for, in any organization? There are lawyers, there are HR, specialists. And it's just super important to kind of dispel those myths. I mean, going back to my own kind of lived experience, I remember even as a child, I actually felt a great sense of shame because my parents didn't talk about their story. And so, my dad was hustling and doing what he needs to do in Chinese takeaways or, to kind of make ends meet. So I didn't know his career background before he came here. And I was partly raised by my grandmother, who was actually illiterate, but an amazing, amazing, resilient woman. And it was only later in life that I've sort of found out that my dad was actually a super qualified engineer, and he did lots of great things, kind of back in Vietnam. And I think, if I as a child felt that sense of shame and didn't understand his story, I can actually understand why the wider community don't understand. But it's good to talk about it and, kind of prove actually some of these myths are quite frankly bullshit.
Yeah. Literally. And you can say that word on my podcast.
Good
for you. What's really interesting, again, our stories are not the same, but there are parallels, right? So when I speak to members of my family who were part of the generation of Windrush and afterwards, I remember my mother years ago, this would be many years ago actually, who said to me, what people don't realize is that when we came over to the UK, we were already established in our countries. There were hairdressers, there were nurses, there were doctors, there were engineers, there were people that were able to do accounting. And, when they came in the 60s, 50s and 60s, those opportunities never arose for them. And I always think that behind every migrant story, there is a story of who you were before.
Yeah.
And somehow you have to give that up in order to give your children a different life. And I don't think that that's spoken about very often, you know.
You're absolutely right, because they grafted, they worked hard. They put 5 children through university.
Incredible.
You know, these things are not to be kind of underestimated.
Absolutely.
But they've quietly, stoically got on with it. And I think actually that should be celebrated more than my success. Where I stand today is on, you know, kind of on the shoulders of those who have sacrificed to allow me to do that.
Oh, well, I hope your family get to see this. Tell me about a moment when you were close to giving up and what stopped you.
I just think I'm going to flip that question again.
I'm not feeling this today, just so that you know.
I'm just going to take control.
Well, you are the managing director, so, you know.
But I guess giving up and failure, I'm very bad at accepting it, would be, you know, and actually that's a strength and a weakness, because, you know, sometimes it's good to say, hey, I'm out, and otherwise you could, you know, get burnout and probably work too hard. But I've got 2 stories of moments where life was a little bit tenuous and how that failure actually helps you to kind of push on. So one is 3 months before I was about to get married, my husband and I foolishly thought we would go and hike up Everest Base Camp. And one of us, not me, developed altitude sickness.
Gosh.
And we were pretty high up. It was blizzard conditions and quite late at night. So a helivac, it was out of the question. The camp we were at didn't have any doctors. So in that moment, you know, it was like, right, what do I do? So you could either crumble and, you know, go, this is an absolute car crash and a failure. But you have to just break it down and go, right, okay, how do we get off this mountain? Because, you know, the ultimate goal in my mind was not death. And also I didn't know how to say in Chinese to my future mother-in-law that time that your son is dead. So reasons. So
very good reasons.
Very valid reasons. So what we did what I did was actually we corralled a bunch of people, porters. I hustled a canister of oxygen for $200.
A canister of oxygen.
I'm not even joking.
I need to hear how you did that.
And then we dragged him down the mountain to the next camp, because when you have altitude sickness, the only option is descend, because otherwise it could create quite a dangerous situation. And he was barely conscious. And, you know, we spent probably about 4 or 5 hours navigating a few miles, getting down to the next camp before he then regained consciousness. And
my goodness.
So
I would dine out on that story forever and a day. My husband was like, I don't want to do this. Listen, I saved your life.
Oh, don't worry.
I want to go on this holiday. I think I saved your life. I carried you on my back to, you know, oh my gosh, that's incredible.
But I guess going back to your question around failure is that moment, I can still, you know, feel the wind. I could, you know, that kind of visually, it's still with me. But actually at work or, you know, in other elements of your life, when you're hit with something really quite challenging, it's actually quite empowering to remember that moment, go, hey, that's nothing. You know, what I faced today at work, there could be a legal dispute, or we've lost a customer, or, you know, there's an operational error. These things happen. It just pales into insignificance to, you know, that kind of experience.
A life or death situation.
Exactly. And then you can break it down. You know, I broke down that life or death experience into what can I tangibly do to get myself out of that situation. And you can absolutely apply that the same in any walk of life.
And that's a really great point, actually, I think, when we're thinking about things that overwhelm us, when we're, you know, when things are not going our way, where, you know, there are opportunities that are no longer available to us, to break it down and just say, actually, what I'm hearing is it's not that deep and we can get through it.
Absolutely.
And I do think that there is power in being able to redefine a particular situation. And I think there is agency in being able to tell yourself, we're not doing this right now.
Yeah.
we're going to pivot, we're going to go another way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very indicative of leadership, right? So when I think of you, I think of you being very intentional and purposeful about how you move through your career.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting the sense from our discussion that your career may not have been intentional. I mean, I'm aware that you started off at a company that is no longer around as a temp, and then you
Mm-hmm.
moved into a business development career. So how did you get here?
It was by no means intentional. I didn't wake up one day and go, I know, I want to be the managing director for workforce solutions business. Because actually back then, what's workforce solutions? You know, kind of what's an MSP?
Yeah. Did opportunity meet you being prepared along the way?
I think I've always, I've had the privilege of having great people around me who recognize what I'm capable of, and also probably a bit of a artful dodginess of recognizing where there are little niches of opportunity where you can assert your capability as well. So you do need to have an element of both. But yeah, I think what's, I guess the career, if you were to draw a bit of a line between the different roles that I've had, and they've included, you know, temping, admin. I was an EA at one point. Then I went into business development. I wrote tenders. I project managed, supply chain kind of procurement kind of role, then into operations, then into customer success, and now kind of leadership. So it's been an interesting kind of journey. But I think the commonality through all that is in most of those roles, the role that I played didn't necessarily exist, or were in a bit of a burning platform level. So it gave me the ability to kind of jump in and make it my own, which has been, you know, kind of the one thing that's kept me within certain organizations for so long. So yeah, I think it's kind of maybe is my little kind of migrant background element, but you make the best of what you have. And actually, you know, if you demonstrate you're shit hot, then hopefully that kind of takes you somewhere.
You said just now that there were people that recognized that you could do more. But the question that I have for you is, it's not a but, it's an and. Were there any barriers for you?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, there's quite a few barriers.
What did they look like, if you don't mind me asking? Well, you're on my podcast, so hey. Look,
hey. Shall I ask you back? No.
No.
The barriers have been, varied. So if I flip back to my university experience, actually, it probably wasn't, it was a great partying time, but academically, it probably wasn't my kind of highlight, if I'm really honest. And I think part of that was just my absolute out of depthness of being there. You studied law? I studied law at Bristol University. So I went from, kind of my local secondary school near the council estate I described earlier, through to this amazing establishment, Bristol's a fantastic university. And I remember stepping in Freshers Week and thinking, brilliant, there's lots of multicolored faces around me. I'm with my people. And when I spoke to them, I realized I really wasn't. I was the only person, I believe, one of two people in my faculty of my background that came from London or the UK. The rest were actually overseas students.
Right.
And when we spoke to each other and, we're going out clubbing and, asking about each other's backgrounds, I think one conversation still resonates with me. And this wonderful girl saying, well, what does your dad do? And I was like, well, he's unemployed. And I said, what does your dad do? And he goes, well, he's a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Wow.
And that was...
opened up a completely different...
Yeah. So the barrier was not necessarily imposed upon me, but there was a sense of,
should I be here? Did you have
Correct.
Did you have imposter?
I did absolutely have imposter syndrome. And it was just also, I didn't know how to navigate that world. I didn't know the rules of engagement in that sort of environment. And then studying law and property, where you're learning about mortgages, like that was not a thing for people of, kind of my background. I didn't know what a mortgage was, let alone kind of understand equity. And, it was an interesting time.
That is so important, because there are a lot of people from similar backgrounds who go to university and they're propelled into this world who think that they shouldn't be there. And I speak because I know, right? I've been there. And, you know, you're propelled into a life pretty much overnight with people who have had a different experiences in life, you know, who holiday 3 times a year and, you know, daddy's got a boat and all of that stuff. And I think it's important for our younger people, I was going to say kids there and I can't say that, but you know, for the young people coming up right now, to know that it's okay to go to these spaces and navigate these places, because the complete leveler, look at the camera, is education. It's a complete leveler. And it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter, you know, what your socio-economic background is. Doesn't matter whether you're in a 2-parent family or a 1-parent family, or you're being in it doesn't matter. Education is a leveler. And I feel that what our generation is seeing now is these wonderful individuals who have been able to get through the educational system and completely make something of themselves, right? So, you know, and for those parents out there who are thinking, you know, should my kid go? Is it a big debt? Yes. But look at Hoa. But it's true, you know.
It is. And you know, university, it was a challenging time in that respect in terms of that story, but equally, it was a beautifully exciting time. You know, you have the opportunity to literally transform yourself from that secondary school person to, you know, that university vibe. And yeah, you can, do whatever you want. No one has any preconceptions, which is beautiful. And I totally agree on your point around education. So if I flip back to my story and my father and, you know, kind of the journey on the boat, when we got on that boat, it was myself, my mum, my dad, and my grandmother. We had 2 suitcases. One suitcase was full of clothes, predominantly baby clothes, because I was very young. And the other one was a suitcase of books.
Oh, wow.
And my dad could not let go of those books.
Wow.
And he's furious even to this day if we sell or discard books. He's like, this knowledge is power. And he still has those books.
Wow. Definitely going to get my older son to watch this. Because you're absolutely right. But I think what's so beautiful about your whole story, your background, is that your parents had to leave.
Yeah.
But your father saw the value in knowledge, right?
Absolutely.
To the point that he gave up space in your suitcase in order to bring that knowledge. I mean, you can't. And then 5 kids in uni. I mean, it started with your grandparents and parents, right?
Absolutely.
And that value of education and what it can do for you, for your family, for your community. You know, it's put you in different places in front of the king. You know, you're on all of these wonderful power lists. I mean, wow. What's your dad called?
Nam.
Guess
what? It means Vietnamese.
I salute you, sir. I salute you, honestly.
And I don't, your viewers may not be able to see this, but I've brought some family photos as well.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of in spirit with me.
Why don't you just describe those photographs that you've brought today?
They're pretty, kind of old school black and white pictures. We were not rich, but one of them is my, the 4 people who made that journey with the 2 suitcases. And I think it was taken just before our journey, actually.
Wow.
Just in case.
Beautiful.
So yeah, I do look like, I don't know, a little extra from Oliver or something.
She looks really cute, people. Very small picture of Hoa as a toddler, her parents, and I believe your grandmother as well. Yeah, gorgeous black and white photographs. And the fact that you brought them here today just reminds me how connected you are to your family and your story. And I think it's just perfect homage that you've chosen this podcast to talk about it so openly, and you've brought your family with you. And I think that's just beautiful. So honestly, I feel very humbled by that. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for letting me tell their story, you know.
Moving back to the question, I've got one really important question for you. So we've talked about how you got here and university and your work. But I'm really keen to understand whether you ever felt that you had to prove legitimacy rather than competence in your trajectory.
Ooh. Legitimacy over competency. I'm not sure if I did, actually, if I'm really honest. I think I've been quietly actually quite proud and of what I do and what I know. And I might not always show this and it feels a tiny bit arrogant, but sometimes I look around and think, well, actually, you're not that great. I can do that. So, and I think that's sort of taken me on as well. So, no, actually, I'm a bit lost on that one. I haven't got the answer.
No, that's absolutely fine. And I like the fact that and it's not arrogance actually. And the reason why it's not arrogance is because I was watching something with Barack Obama.
Okay.
And he said quite clearly, we all try to get into the rooms, we all try to get to the table. And then when you get to the table, you're like, is this the table? Because you're expecting the table to be, far more superior or, and it's not. So I think that's a really important point. And it's okay to look around and think, I'm good here. I need to get to the next table. The next table, because this table, I thought it was for me, not quite for me. So I think that's important. How do you use your position to open doors for others?
Lots. So I think at work, I think it's really important to kind of spot people with talent. I've kind of been there before, that scrappy person going, all right, I can do this. And sometimes people don't have access to the experience. So if we recruit or elevate individuals with that potential, the grit and just the desire to succeed, I think that actually makes you much, kind of more rounded. And I achieve success through those sort of great people as well. And then more recently, given the nature of what I do and the position I have, I've had the privilege of being invited to various, kind of boards. So you've spoken about HMP Drake Hall. I am the chair, or I was. I've just resigned. Sorry, Drake Hall. But
you got this trusteeship that the king hangs out with. So both of course, yes, Drake Hall, super important.
Hey,
of course.
I've been at Drake Hall for over almost 4 years now.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, as their EAB chair, so the Employment Advisory Board chair. And it's a ladies' prison, and the work they do is utterly incredible. And it completely broke my preconceptions of prisons. And what I didn't realize before working with them is over 50% of women who are incarcerated are mothers.
What?
And so if you think about the context of that, is most of those mothers are from single family households. So when you place a woman into that environment,
what happens to
you're
the
breaking
children?
you're breaking up that household. The children may be put into care, or, if they're not fortunate, but, they may have family members who can support. And also many of those are on social housing, so they will lose housing as well. So then to rebuild,
right,
once, because quite rightly you have to kind of serve your time, but to rebuild again is even harder for a woman.
Yeah.
And that's why the work that they do at Drake Hall has been super incredible and eye-opening for me. And, we've placed men and women actually from various prison kind of backgrounds into both our own organization and on behalf of our customers. And what we've seen is actually productivity has been increased through it. And, everyone has a greater sense of purpose. There's tangible business benefits of doing this, as well as the wonderful, great things that we should be doing, opening the door and giving people a second chance. I think I was at an event recently, and there was a baroness speaking about, the importance of it all. And she said, we treat people with criminal convictions as if it's a black mark on their name. But you and I, if we were sat here today and the whole world knew your biggest, worst mistake, how would you feel? And that's what some people with criminal convictions, are being judged by probably the worst moment of their life, and they can't erase that. Whereas we can, or we can suppress it. So we need to give others a crack.
Beautifully put. So Hoa, I'm really intrigued to ask you this. It's good. It's a good one. It's good. I promise you. What advice do people ask you for? And what do you think they should be asking you instead?
Frequently it's, how do I get into this job? How do I kind of, progress my career, as a woman, and all those sort of typical questions, which, I can talk through in terms of my lived experience. But I think the question I would like others to ask is, how do I say no? How do I push back? And how do I repivot? So,
yes,
because we talk about being intentional, and sometimes when you're great at stuff, or you're seen as being very competent, it's very easy to be overloaded.
Yeah,
and actually
happens all the time.
Precisely,
yeah.
And it takes you away from your intention, what the end goal is, and I think all of us get into the danger of doing that because we want to please, we want to be great, and that is that's certainly my being. And sometimes you just need to stop and you go, wait a minute, is this really taking me in the right direction, or even the business's direction? And pause.
I love that. And pause. Tell me about the power of the pause.
Oh gosh, it's I don't do it enough, and I'm super guilty of that. I think the power of the pause stops burnout. It helps you to reflect, and it helps you to pivot, because actually you can run a million miles an hour and you think it's going to take me to that wonderful goal, help me cross that road that I talked about earlier. And actually it doesn't, you've suddenly deviated. So the pause helps you to step back, not be so emotional about some, kind of frantic moments of your life where you're trying to make a business decision. And it gives you objectiveness. And I think that is really important. And actually sometimes in our busy lives, we need stillness.
Yeah.
We need to quieten our lives, and
the noise.
Enjoy. Yes, exactly.
So many distractions. Hear that inner voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's powerful. If you can get to the peace and only hear your voice, that's powerful. I make my best decisions in that space. Right. Well, listen, this has been great, but I've got one question for you before we wrap this up.
I'm sad. This is the last one.
I know, because this has been just wonderful. When people finish listening to this conversation, what do you hope they take away about what's possible?
I think possibility for me has been a frame of mind. And, because I came to this country not knowing the rules of engagement and not necessarily having role models that looked like me and, kind of all that loveliness back in the day, actually that frees you up to dream, perhaps a bit harder or a bit more wacky, because you're not constrained within those guardrails of what is possible. So, I think, I used to watch A-Team, and I've spoken about this before with some of my friends, and I used to utterly love it. And actually the A-Team would I'm
smiling because I think we're from the same decade. Yes.
You understand, right?
Yes.
And they'll be stuck in a shed trying to get out. And with, I don't know, a piece of chewing gum and a haystack or something, they would get out. And so that for me kind of just, my levels of ambition, I didn't have like lawyers in my family and things. So it was all about well, if the A-Team could get out of this situation, or do whatever, that is possibility for me. And I think that's the A-Team is the program I credit to my success, as well as my parents.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. It has been an absolute pleasure. I feel as if I know you on a much deeper level. I think that the viewers are going to relish your story. It's a story of resilience, of triumph, and of pivoting wherever necessary. You are an absolute inspiration. And there are many women out there, but particularly many women that look like you, that will be inspired by you. Definitely. So thank you for being so open today.
Thank you. It's been great.